Hello and welcome to another special GCSE revision video. This is another one of those BBC Breakfast Maths Challenge, which are all very nicely at GCSE level, so they work very well with my videos. In this BBC Breakfast Maths Challenge, we're told the lion and scarecrow are driving separately on a new yellow brick road from Kansas to Emerald City. The distance is 325 kilometres. They start their journeys at 5 a.m. When the scarecrow reaches the Emerald City, the lion still has 75 kilometres to drive and arrives 45 minutes after the scarecrow. The lion and the scarecrow each drive at a constant speed and have no stops. What times do the lion and scarecrow reach Emerald City? As a bonus point, what is the speed of the scarecrow's car? Okay, so let's just grab some of the key points out of this. What we care about is that the distance is 325 kilometres. They start their journey at 5 a.m. The lion still has 75 kilometres to go and arrives 45 minutes after the scarecrow. And they drive at constant speeds, so that's important, and no stops. Okay, so because they drive at constant speeds and no stops, we can say that we can work out the lion's car because he's covering 75 kilometres in 45 minutes. So if I take 45 minutes, it's one thing for a lot of us adults especially to say 45 minutes, oh that's 3/4 of an hour, but that might not actually be obvious. So I'm going to say this 45 minutes, if I multiply by, am I going mad? Well, I think it's because it's so early in the morning, divide by 60 minutes per hour, I'll show you where that 3/4 of an hour comes from. Okay, well 45 and 60 will obviously both divide by 5, because if it ends in a 5 or it ends in a 0, it's got to be a multiple of 5, if you'll excuse me. Okay, so we know that 12 times 5 is 60 from our times tables, and 9 times 5 is 45. Now I know that 3 times 4 is 12, and I know that 3 times 3 is 9. So I can cancel that 3, I can cancel that 3, and I've got 3 over 4. So 45 minutes is actually 3/4 of an hour. A lot of us, though, actually knew that going right into the question. So I'm going to get rid of that working. Okay, and he's travelled 75 kilometres. Well, if we want to know the speed, speeds are measured in kilometres per hour, so it seems fairly intuitive that we're going to have to divide the distance by time to get speed. But distance divided by time equals speed. Or I'll put speed equals distance over time. Technically, speed is distance divided by time is the average speed, but we're told that they go at a constant speed anyway, so there's nothing wrong with us saying this. So if we divide 75 kilometres by 3/4 of an hour, then we can actually give the speed. And there's quite a few ways we can do this, but I'm going to do it the way that we're always taught at GCSE, and that's invert and multiply in order to divide fractions. So that's 75 kilometres multiplied by 4 over 3, and that'll be reciprocal hours. But actually, I'll keep the units in, times 1 over hour. It just keeps it straight in our heads. Right, so I've inverted and multiplied in order to get the division. So that's 75 times 4 divided by 3. Well, 75 divided by 3, 3 goes into 7 twice, because 2 times 3 is 6, and that leaves a remainder of 1. And 3 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. So that's 25. I'm just going to take that as 25, and that gets rid of the 3. So it's 25 times 4, and 25 times 2 is 50, and 50 times 2 is 100. So this is 100 kilometers per hour. So the Lion's car is travelling at, I'll put speed, is 100 kilometers per hour. And that's fast. Top of my head, I think that's roughly 60 miles per hour, which is bad because in the United States, and Kansas in the United States, the speed limit is 55 miles per hour. So the slower car is really gunning it. Anyway, that's perfectly fine because this is pure fiction. Alright, so the Lion's car is travelling at 100 kilometers per hour. So how long does it take the Lion to cover 325 kilometers? Well, that's easy. 325 kilometers divided by 100 kilometers per hour. We just move the decimal point 2 points or 2 decimal places to the left. So that's 3.25 hours. In fact, I will write this down. 325 kilometers divided by 100 kilometers per hour. Kilometers are going to be covered, and you've got 1 over hours, so you're just going to end up with hours. And so we just take the decimal point, move it 2 points to the left, and so that's 3.25 hours, which is equal to 3 1/4 hours. Now I know from my time that quarter of an hour is 15 minutes, but if I didn't know that, I could say 1 over 4 times 60 minutes in an hour. I can say, well, 2 divided by 60 is 30, and 60 divided by 2 is 30, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. So that would be 15 minutes. Okay, so that's 3 hours and 15 minutes. I'm going to get rid of those calculations because I'm running low on space. So the time for the Lion's journey was 3 hours and 15 minutes. Now, if they both started their journey at 5 AM, then the Lion arrives 3 hours 15 minutes after 5 AM, so that's 8:15 AM. So Lion arrives at 8:15 AM. Alright, now, that's the Lion, if you'll excuse me. Okay. The Scarecrow arrived 45 minutes earlier. So the Scarecrow arrived 45 minutes before 8:15. Now, if we take 15 minutes away from 8:15, we'll end up with 8 o'clock. And if we take 15 minutes away from 45 minutes, we're left with 30 minutes, or half an hour. So he arrived 30 minutes before 8 o'clock, which would make it 7:30. So I'm just going to put SC for Scarecrow. Arrives 7:30 AM. And that is the answer to the question as stated. All that's left is, as a bonus point, what is the speed of the Scarecrow's car? Okay, so the Scarecrow started his journey at 5 AM and arrived at 7:30 AM. So that's 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours to make a journey of 325 kilometers. So that's 325 kilometers over 2.5 hours. Well, rather than try to divide that, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. 300 times 2 is 600, and 25 times 2 is 50, so that's 650 kilometers. And of course, if I've multiplied the numerator by 2, I've got to multiply the denominator by 2. Oh my goodness, I cannot get my tongue to work this early in the morning. Right, so if I multiply the top by 2, I've got to multiply the top by the bottom by 2 to keep the fraction balanced. So 2.5 hours, well, 2.5 is half of 5, or I could have said 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times a half is 1, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So that's divided by 5. I could do that, but the easier way to divide by 5 is to divide by 10 and double it. So if I double top and bottom one more time, so if I times 650 by 2, 6 times 2 is 12, and 50 times 2 is 100, so this is going to be 1300, as the Americans would say, or 1,300 kilometers, divided by 10 hours. So that's, if I cancel that 0 and I cancel that 0, that's 130 kilometers per hour. So the Scarecrow is travelling, or Scarecrow car is travelling at a constant speed of 130 kilometers per hour. And that is fast. Those guys are real speed demons. Okay, so our answers to the question is that what times do the Lion and Scarecrow reach Emerald City? Well, the Lion arrives at 8:15 AM and the Scarecrow arrives at 7:30 AM. And what is the speed of the Scarecrow's car? Well, that's 130 kilometers per hour. Okay, I actually really enjoyed that question. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are taking your GCSEs this year, I'd like to wish you every success with your revision and every success with your exams. And oh, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you in another video.